Hello and welcome. My name is Susan, and I draw here with you every day. I want to tell you about a stretch of time about 4 years ago when I had 3 months entirely to myself. No job, no team, no calendar telling me where to be or what I need to do. From the outside, that probably sounds like a gift. It didn't feel like one at the time because I was let go. The company I worked for had been acquired, and in the restructure that followed, a lot of the things I spent years building quietly came apart. And what surprised me in those first weeks wasn't that I was sad about the job. It was how much I lost along with it. It turned out I had been investing myself in a place I didn't fully own. So while I worked on this portrait today, I want to talk about that, about worth and where we put it, and the daily practice that honestly gave mine back. Let me back up and share with you exactly what happened, because I think being forcefully let go of something that you are invested in is more common than people admit. I've built software for over a decade. I would say I'm pretty good at it. I care a lot about it as well. And somewhere along the way, I had quietly started measuring myself by it. Not on purpose, I don't think. It just happened slowly. You ship good work, people rely on you. You get the next thing, and without ever deciding to, you begin to believe that what you're worth is roughly equal to what you can produce. As I climb the ladder, I start to measure my worth based on my contribution for the company this quarter versus the previous. The acquisition showed me the flaw in that arithmetic, because here's the thing that nobody tells you about. When a private equity firm buys a company, what matters is what makes money, not the culture, not the people, not the teams or product features you stayed late to build. I watched groups I had carefully put together get taken apart, and there was absolutely nothing I could do about it. It didn't matter how hard I worked. I couldn't have changed the outcome in a way that protected anyone. And if your sense of worth is built on the impact you have at work, that moment is devastating because it tells you the thing you've been used to measure yourself was never really in your hands. You don't get to keep it. Someone else decides what it's worth and when. To them, the employee, Susan, was not something they needed to consider. My entire company was probably just a line in a spreadsheet. And I don't think this is only a technology company problem. I think anyone who works a little too hard, perhaps, who has quietly let their job become the main place they go to feel valuable, is standing on the same ground I was. So after I was let go, I drew. In those 3 months, almost by instinct, I went back to drawing and painting. Not to make anything good, not to even post it in the beginning, just to have somewhere to put myself that wasn't the thing I lost. And slowly, something repaired within myself. When I draw, the value of it doesn't belong to anyone else. No one approves it, no one can take it away. I just sit down, I look at something, I really try to observe, I try to put it on the page. And at the end, I'm a little better at seeing than I was an hour before. That's pretty much it. That's the whole transaction. And I'm the only person accountable. Only I get to judge my sketchbook. After months of feeling powerless, that turned out to be exactly the thing I needed. A kind of worth that was process-driven instead of outcome-driven. It's not, did this succeed? It's just, did I show up and do it? And that I can always answer yes to. This is the subtle difference between my two practices. My career taught me to chase outcomes. The launch, the promotion, the result. Were my clients happy? Were my stakeholders happy? Outcomes are real and they matter, but they live partly outside you and they can be taken. Drawing every day is the opposite. It's just a routine. The point isn't the finished portrait. The point is that I sat down and did it today, the way I did yesterday, the way I'll probably do tomorrow. And nobody can acquire a habit. Nobody can lay off the fact that you showed up. I came out of those 3 months with my worth in a different place. Not gone from work, I still love the work, but it's not the only place it lives anymore. And that one change made me steadier, strangely. When your whole sense of self isn't riding on things you don't fully control, you can do harder things without being quietly terrified the entire time. After those 3 months, I did the sensible thing. I took another job, a lot like the old one actually. Also an engineering leader role, assembling high-performance teams, building software for other companies. Familiar ground, and for a while it was right. But by the end of 2023, something in me had changed, and I was brave enough to act on it. I left that job too. This time by choice, and I started a company of my own with a partner in property tech. Software we actually believe in, that we get to build the way we think it should be built. We've been at it ever since. I'm fairly sure I couldn't have done that before the gap year. Walking away from a stable senior role to build something uncertain is a frightening thing. And the old me, the one whose self-worth lived with client and team satisfaction, would have been far too scared to risk it. But once your sense of value isn't riding on staying employed by someone else, risk starts to look different. You can let go of the safe thing because, the safe thing was never where you would grow. That's the part I didn't see coming. Drawing didn't only make me happier in the moment, it made me braver. And the same thing happens when you're drawing a portrait in pen. When there's no pencil, no eraser, no going back, you really have to commit to a line before you're certain that's the right one. You make a mark, you see what it did, and you respond to it, instead of waiting until you're sure. Starting a company is kind of like that, right? You almost never have enough information. You commit, you watch what happens, you adjust the next line. Just like when I'm starting my company, I have to adjust and pivot almost every single day based on the information I have. But the key is not to wait for the perfect moment. You just act and then change your course based on what you see. Every portrait I have ever made goes through a stage where it just kind of looks wrong. The shapes are blocked in, nothing fully reads yet, and if you didn't know better, you feel like you ruined it and you just want to stop. A decade of drawing every day taught me that the ugly middle isn't a failure. It's just the middle. And I also feel it's the same thing building a company, trying to find product market fit. Drawing every day, pushing through the ugly middle, helps me get through the rough days where I know this is just part of the process and I'm not at the end of the tunnel yet. And that is okay. Being in that middle could feel really frustrating. But when you're in the middle part, all of a sudden it feels like this is just normal. This is okay. And I can get through this. This too shall pass. So when I draw in my sketchbook, I like to use a limited palette, and you can probably tell if you've been watching me. Sometimes I just use 2 colors on purpose. I spent years learning that restriction doesn't shrink what you can make. It enables it. Because when you have too much choices, too much things you want to commit to, you don't end up doing anything at all, or you don't end up doing anything right. A startup is also nothing but constraints. Not enough money, not enough time, not enough people. And the same instinct that makes a 2-color drawing work, it's the one thing that makes a small scrappy company work. You stop wishing for more, and you start using what's actually in front of you. None of that shows up on a resume, but it is the realest training I ever got. And I didn't get it at work. I got it here by doing this every day. The discipline is creating momentum when you don't have a lot, when you don't have everything you need, but you're doing it anyway. So here's where I've landed. The 2 things I do, the job and the drawing, protect and mirror each other. I used to believe art is just my hobby and it's not one of my defining characters. My job as a software designer, developer, engineer, whatever you want to call it, is actually my DNA. But that's just not the whole story. A person can have many roles. They can also complement one another. Sometimes one role actually helps you do another better, even if they sound totally and completely different on paper. You see, my job pays for my life. Drawing doesn't have to. I do sometimes accept commissions, usually from people I know or a friend of a friend type of thing. That freedom is a luxury the job buys, and I'm not ashamed of that. Financial freedom is what lets a passion stay a passion instead of becoming one more thing you're judged on. I truly believe art protects me. It holds the part of my worth that work isn't allowed to touch. So when work shakes, and work always eventually shakes, I don't fall all the way down, because that's not the only floor I'm standing on. If you've tied too much of yourself to one thing, and most of us have, usually without choosing to, I say, build yourself a safety net. It doesn't have to be drawing. It just has to be something that's yours, that no one grades, that you do because the doing is the point, showing up to it daily, the way kind of like how I show up to this page. You won't really see it pay off in a month, but 4 years from now, you'll be amazed how much it has quietly holding and how much braver it lets you be when it mattered. A safety net doesn't just keep you from falling, it's also what makes you willing to jump. Sometimes losing something gains you something back. There is always growth that can happen in the least expected ways. Let me know if you ever had an unexpected outcome from something or somewhere you didn't expect. Happy drawing, and I hope to see you in the next one.